So the first sound is the starter, which comes from Vivo, and here's what this sounds like. For the effects, I just put 2 EQs, and the first one is just taking out some low range, and then I have the second EQ, which is taking out some of the low mids, and then I kept the pitch the same, but I just decreased the tempo since we're at 115. And then the next thing I did was I added a couple of separation just to kind of let these sounds play, and it just kind of makes the sample more interesting once you drop a sound out, and then just let one sound kind of do its thing. And then what I did after that was, here I have some more separation right here just to kind of make the sample sound more chopped up. And then that's pretty much the foundation for this sample. And I wanted to keep this section simple because there was a lot of textural stuff going on within the piano, and I wanted that to kind of like have its place to shine. So I would only add maybe like a couple more sounds to this section before I started to go and make the rest of the sample. But this next sound is the vocals, which sound like this. These vocals come from a kit by Loupy. This was a kit released back in summer 2023, I believe, and I'm not sure if it's available anymore, but what I did for the vocals was I just pitched this down an octave, and then I pitched it back up 4 semitones to fit the key of the sample. And then what I did was I took this first part of the vocals, and then I just repeated that twice. And then what I did for the second section was I grabbed the end piece and I let that play through, as you can see there. And then what I did was I just chopped up the vocal to kind of fit the rhythm of the sample a bit more, and I just added this one extra note right here. And here's what this sounds like. It's very simple, but what I did was I put these 2 vocals and I consolidated them so that way it's just one vocal loop. And then what I did was I went into my plugins, and then I grabbed this declick plugin right here, and this just declicked the audio. And then once I did that, I just exported it out, and then I had this recording. This next sound is the ear candy, which sounds like this. Then this ear candy is from my shift texture kit. I'm going to show that to you. There we go. And then I'm pitching this down an octave, and then I'm pitching it down 6 more semitones. And then for the effects, there's no effects on this, it's a dry sound. But I wanted this one to kind of play by itself because I wanted this to kind of have some room, especially with all the texture stuff going on within the piano. I just wanted to have this sound to kind of have its own like spot within the mix, and then that's how I did it. And then after that, I have this ear candy, which sounds like this. Then this ear candy comes from Tools Volume 1 by Hades, and then I'm pitching this one down 4 semitones. And then what I'm doing is I'm adding a fruity fast distortion, and this is set to the fuzz preset. Makes everything super saturated. It sounds amazing. And I'm using this EQ, which takes out some of the low end, and then I have this EQ on the bottom, which is taking out a tiny bit of the highs. And then when it came to me chopping this sound up, let me play you the full thing. So here's what it sounded like at first. So I wanted this to kind of be very jumpy because I wanted this to contrast from the very smooth piano. So I wanted the sound to be very jumpy, very excited, and very chopped up. So how I did that was I left this first part the same, but then what I did was I added some extra chops within here. Like I just took out this section, and then I took out this section right here, and then this section as well. And then I'm letting some stuff repeat again, so that way it kind of sounds a bit like glitchy, a bit random. And then I made this last sound right here. I made this one unique, and this one gets pitched down 6 semitones instead of 4. And from there, that's the ear candy. And then the next sound is the percussion, which sounds like this. And then for this sound, I have this percussion loop, which comes from my sync 1-shot kit, as you can see here. And then I'm pitching this one up 1 semitone, and then I'm just time stretching it. And then for the next sound, it's this little percussion hit, which comes from my chef texture kit. And this is the perc 11 sound right here. And then I put these to one mixer, and then I'm using an EQ to cut out some lows and highs. And then I have the percussion set to mono. And then this next sound is this little guitar, which sounds like this. And then for this guitar, this comes from one of the kits by laisvis. This is the archetype kit, and this one is actually unreleased at the moment because he's still working on it, but he sent me this to test out, and I've been loving this kit, so definitely stay tuned for that. But when it comes to the guitar, here's what I did to it. Let me see if I can play the original sound within here. That's the original sound. And what I did was I just pitched it down 3 semitones, and then I just time stretched it by 2 times. And then what I did after that was I just took the first part of the sound and I just let it play through once. Pretty much just added some delay. And then this has the timing set to 1/2 and the mix set to 25%. And then after that, I have an EQ taking out some lows and highs, and then I'm making the guitar mono, as you can see there. And then I made this unique as well, and this one's getting pitched up 4 semitones. And then there's another guitar that's getting pitched up 2 semitones. And then this not only acts as like some variation for the first section, but it also acts as a counter melody for the second section. And then now that we're into the second section, let me break down the bass, and here's what this sounds like. And then for the bass, I'm using this bass, which comes from a kit that I'm working on right now. It's gonna have a bunch of really cool like time stretched phrases, ear candy textures, and then some 1-shots for you guys. Everything from this, it just sounds great. Like this, for example. So those are just some sounds from the kit. And then for the bass, I have this EQ, which is just taking out some of the highs, and then that's the bass. Then the next sound I added was this texture, which is the foundation for the second section. And here's what this sounds like. Then this texture comes from Fairy Adventures by Hades and Mute, as you can see here. And then this is the Koi Island sound. And then I'm pitching this one down 2 semitones, and then I'm pitching it down 1 more octave. And then I have this EQ taking out some lows and highs, and then that's the texture. But how I chopped it up, as you can see within here, was I just kind of made a little bit of separation between each chop like this. And then what I did was I just grabbed them both, and then I just dragged them back like that. And I like to do this whenever I don't have a lot of percussion going on. Like for example, I just have these 2 little percussion stuff going on, but I wanted the sample to still feel bouncy. So I just do this little technique to kind of make it feel like it's chopped up, and then that's how I did that. But then this next part within the texture, I grabbed the last chop, which was right here, which is just a repeated version of this sound right there. But then I made this one unique, and I pitched it up almost 3 semitones after that. And then from there, what I did was I just let it repeat twice, and then that's the texture. And then this next sound is this little accent, which sounds like this. This accent comes from Thermocolor by Cryptic. This is an ear candy from the kit. And then I have an EQ taking out some lows and highs once again. And then this just acts as like a tiny little accent for when the bass hits right here. And then this next sound is this pluck, which sounds like this. This pluck is another ear candy which comes from Thermocolor, and it's the seismic ear candy, as you can see there. And then I'm pitching this one down an octave, and then I'm pitching it back up 4 semitones. And I'm just taking that first section, I'm just repeating it twice, and then that's the little pluck. And then after that, I think we're now going to be done with the second section. So there's one more thing actually, which is this little transition, which goes into the second section to the third section. And here's what this sounds like. This sound is coming from hue+saturation 1 by MW, and I'm pitching it down 2 octaves. And then from there, I have a fruity fast distortion, which kind of saturates the sound. And then I have a Valhalla delay with the feedback set to 109%, and then the timing set to 1/16. And then I have the wow and flutter decrease because there's a little bit of like time variation once you have these settings turned on, and sometimes it can sound a bit out of tune. So I just wanted to keep it uniform and pretty much keep it the same. And then I wanted to put an EQ to take out some frequencies. This one I'm just putting a high pass and then a low pass, and I'm taking out some of the low mids as well. And then from here, I'm making the stereo separation a tiny bit more merged, and then that's the sound. So I'm gonna play a before and after. And then that's the sound. So then now that we're into the third section, this sound is the chords, which sound like this. These chords are using a one-shot which comes from my gamut multi-kit, and this is the zinc one-shot. It's the very last one. And what I'm using here is I'm using an EQ to take out some low end, and then I'm making the chords a mono. And I wanted to keep the chords very simple because there's a lot more stuff going on here, which let me break that down right now. So this next sound is this little texture which sounds like this. This texture comes from my sync one-shot kit, and here's what that looks like right here. And then I'm pitching this one down 6 semitones, and then from there I'm adding no effects to this first part, but for the second part I made this one unique. And then from here I believe I pitched it down some more, and then I pitched it down an octave, I believe. Yeah. And then from here I added this sound to a new mixer, which this one has delay on it. I have the timing set to 1/4, and then the wow and flutter decreased to 0. And then that's all I did for that. It just adds a little bit of ambience for the sample. Kind of makes things sound a bit more interesting. And then this next sound is this accent, which sounds like this. This accent comes from hue+saturation by MW once again. And here's what that is right there. And then what I'm doing is I'm pitching this one up an octave, and then I'm pitching it down 2 semitones. And then I have this sound right here. That's what it sounds like at first. And then what I'm doing is I'm just taking the tail end and I am using that as the accent. And then when it comes to the effects, it's dry. And then that's the accent. Then this next sound is this phrase, which sounds like this. This phrase comes from hue+saturation 2 by MW, and I'm pitching this one down 3 semitones. And then from here, the simple EQ, taking out some lows and highs, and then I have a bit of a decrease within the mid-range, as you can see there. And then what I'm doing is I'm taking this first section right here, and I'm just repeating it twice. And then from there, that's the phrase. And then we have some more percussion stuff going on, which is the same exact sounds as before. And then the last sound, I believe, is this Memphis vocal loop, which sounds like this. This is just to add some more bounce for the sample, and then I want you to pay attention to the little pluck melody that's within the Memphis vocal. That's what I use to tune this vocal loop to the sample, as you can see here. And then this vocal loop, it comes from this song right here, and this is pitched down an octave and then pitched back up 6 semitones to fit the key of the sample. And then what I did was I have an EQ, taking out some lows and highs, and then that's the sound. And I believe with that, that's pretty much what the sample is made out of. So when it comes to the master, I have a few effects. So I have a Goodhertz can opener, and then I have a sound shifter, which is pitching the sample up 2 semitones, and then I have an EQ, which does nothing, and then I have a limiter right here, which just makes the sample louder. And then with all of that, that is the sample. Hope you guys enjoyed, and thank you all.